What if I told you there are 27 perfectly good weaknesses you can use to ace your job interview and stand out from the crowd? Having interviewed over 300 people, I have identified the top 5 mistakes inexperienced candidates make when answering this tricky question, which often ends up costing them the job. And so in this video, I'll show you what hiring managers really want to hear when they ask what's your biggest weakness, the red flags you should definitely avoid mentioning, and my simple 4-step framework that top performers use so you can prepare a great answer without sounding dishonest. Let's go. The real reason interviewers ask this question is so often misunderstood. And while it can seem tricky, interviewers are not actually trying to trip you up. What they really want to know is if you can be honest and show that you can work on improving yourself. And so after working with dozens of hiring managers, I've come to realize that what they want is a skilled, self-aware candidate that can easily fit into their team. But now that you know that interviewers are not trying to trip you up, how do you avoid saying the wrong thing? The first super important step is to make sure you have actually thought about this question before the interview. Saying, "I can't think of anything," doesn't mean you have no weaknesses. It just simply shows that you're not prepared. The second thing to avoid is using any weakness that shows that you're not able to do a basic job. Saying things like, "I'm not great at managing multiple tasks," "I don't like to work with other people," or "I take criticism very personally," can make the hiring managers worry that you're not going to fit well into their team and they'll have to spend a lot of time checking over your work. The next thing to avoid are cliched answers such as being a perfectionist or working too hard. And on that note, if you're asked about one weakness, make sure you're not giving them a laundry list of everything that's wrong with you. And if you're wondering exactly how honest you should be, it's okay to be honest, but make sure that you're not just stating the weakness and stopping there. You actually need to expand on your answer, otherwise you're going to leave a negative impression. The next step is something most candidates completely forget about, even though in reality it can make or break your answer. There are two kinds of people. One of them believes that there is no point in preparing because you can't really change your weakness in a day. And so they often pick a weakness at random, or just do a quick Google search and pick the first thing that appears as a good weakness on Reddit. And then there is the highly strategic people who believe that they have control over their answers. So they take a little bit more time to prepare and pick a weakness from my list of 27 so they can give an answer that can make a great impression. Because what they know is that you need to pick a weakness that is not critical for you doing your job well, and it can be something that you'd like to develop to get better at your job. So if you look a little bit deeper, weaknesses can be broken down into 5 categories: communication, working with others, working alone, personal, and technical. Take a minute and pick one that resonates with you. And you know that you have picked a good weakness when it's something that you can actually change rather than a personality trait. So for example, if you're a graphic designer, avoid saying that you're not very creative because this is literally part of the job. You can use the fact that you're not really great at remembering people's names as your weakness, because this is definitely something that you can work on and improve. Just make sure that you're phrasing it as an active thing rather than the fact that you're simply someone with poor memory. Similarly, if you're a software engineer, avoid saying that you don't like to change your approach once you start at work, or the fact that you're stubborn, because both of those things are actually quite bad, since in software development there is constantly new technologies coming up and requirements often change. What you can say instead is that you're not very comfortable when presenting in front of a large group of people. And again, making sure to phrase it as an active thing rather than being a highly anxious person. So once you have chosen your weakness, all you need to know is how to structure your answer so that interviewer sees you as a great fit. The first thing to remember is a simple 80-20 rule. 20% of your time should be spent talking about the weakness, and 80% should be talking about what you're doing to improve it. You can use my simple WHERE formula: weakness, explain, action plan, and results. And so what this means is that you should briefly state the weakness, then explain why it is important for you to work on it, then share what steps you have actually taken to improve on that, and it's really important here to be specific. And finally, highlight any positive results or outcomes you have had since starting to work on that weakness. You can use a simple script to help you out. In the past, I tended to struggle with It's important for me to work on this because to overcome this, I have, and as a result, I have. So let me give you two real examples of applying the WHERE formula. The first one is with public speaking. So what you can say here is, I tend to be very nervous about public speaking, especially when I have to present in front of the entire team. But as I want to progress into more leadership roles, I think it's actually really important for me to increase my comfort when presenting to larger groups. And that is why 2 months ago, I joined the local Toastmasters, which helped me to gain confidence. And I've learned techniques such as bullet point scripting and 478 briefing, which have helped me to be a lot more structured and calm. And so while I still get a little bit nervous before having to present, I now have the tools that help me to stay calm. And actually, in our last team meeting, I was able to present my ideas clearly in front of the entire team. And here is another example with the weakness of delegation. In the past, I have often found it difficult to delegate tasks because I wanted everything done perfectly. I thought that this was the only way to get a project done, but I realized that when I'm not delegating, I'm actually preventing my team from developing their skills and confidence. And so to help me feel more comfortable with delegation, I've started using Asana as a project management tool to keep track of the delegated tasks, and I found that having that visibility has really helped me to trust my team more. And what I've also found is that our productivity has actually increased, so I'm excited to continue developing this skill. And as a recruiter, I can tell you that these kind of answers score really high points, and I can move to the next question without having any red flags about you. As you can see, being strategic about your answer can significantly increase your chances of success. And speaking of successfully passing your interview, click over on this video so you can learn how to answer the question about your greatest strength like a pro. I'll see you there.